Hi and welcome to the Business Today TV show. Well, today is all about innovating in your business. Lots of guests coming up and I'm in the top studio because of social distancing, and Gerhard, you're downstairs with a great view.
And welcome to show number 11.
Well, it is COVID-19 crisis. This show is all about innovation today. And one of the opportunities you've got now is with the government grants, Gerhard.
Yes, there's so many grants available. I think different countries got different grants. And it's so important to understand what you can do and when you can do it. And that's why it's so important to speak to people that knows about incentives.
Yeah, and our wealth creation expert Helia Singh is about to join us to talk about how you can take advantage and use to your advantage the government grants right here in Australia.
Oh, for sure. These days we are just telling people that first of all what is available, and we know even though government is doing their best to help people, but every day they come up with a new package with a more confusion message. And of course, people are just calling us to say, what does it mean? And we told them, look, at the moment, means this. But maybe by tomorrow, they come back and change it. So even us, we don't know what's happening. But in reality, but what we could do is, okay, if government is giving this much money, so how you can help, how you can plan your life. Imagine for 6 months, 12 months, you're going to live like this. What should you be doing to prepare to find a good opportunity later on? Because the good thing, unfortunately, of this pandemic is, or the way that I use it as a metaphor, is as if the whole earth, we all are in a ship which is sinking. So no matter you are in a luxury cabin in the cruise, or you are down there somewhere next to the motor room, doesn't matter. We all are in it together. If this sinks, everybody sinks together. So, but now what can you do to level up, to find a way to keep this ship floated and hopefully reach it to the shore and everybody come out of it, pride and happy, and then look back on these days and say, yes, we survived it.
Well, I think it was really interesting listening to Helia there, Gerhard, on what you should and what you shouldn't do with the government grants, like don't waste the money.
I think it's important also to understand the difference between being creative and using initiative or being innovative. To innovate is to make things better. Everybody always says be creative, but you can only be so creative with certain things. And that's why we say if you want to innovate, do things better.
And it is one of the things that we do in Worthington Stoop. When we actually talk to companies about innovation, people say, well, where do I start with innovation? Well, one of the things is, and it is true, you can't force innovation. You can't just say to someone, be innovative and innovate. But what you can do is create an environment for innovation to foster and develop. And we see this, don't we, Gerhard, in companies like Google and Facebook. They create environments that encourages innovation all the time.
Exactly. When people feel that they have a safe space to share, they will. And everything depends from top down. If management allows that environment, you will see what it will do to your business.
I think that's a really good point you've made there, Gerhard, about creating the environment for people to feel safe. And I suppose that is one of the questions. We're going through a whole change now and a whole change in dynamic of how businesses operate. And I guess when we're working with companies, one of our first questions, as we get to this, we're saying, how can you create in your workspace now this safe environment? Are you going to do what Google does, give half a day aside or a day aside for innovation? Are you going to let people work on projects that are not directly related to what they do? What is it you can create the environment that allows people to be new? I think this is one of the discussions you have a lot of times. I remember when you talked to me about your the hearing company you had in South Africa. This was one of the things that you always encourage your team to do.
Exactly, and what we've done as well is there was an incentive. If they came with an idea and we used it, we gave them an incentive. And it's not always about money. For example, the one lady never went on an airplane before, and we actually bought a plane ticket for her and her family to go down to go on holiday. And that meant so much at the end of the day. And the next ideas that came were even bigger than the previous ones.
I guess that's what the advantage of when you've got outsiders looking for your business from the outside, as they say, Gerhard, is they can help you create the environments. And as you said, incentives don't always have to be about the money. I thought that was a great point. Look, we better move on. We've got our next guest, Coleen Yates from Regional Development Australia, Perth. Now, Coleen was released recently in the United States, just when the COVID virus hit, Gerhard, and she came back to Australia. And she's giving us a bit of a perspective on how we've managed to handle it here compared to the United States. Nothing really negative, but she's showing us, I think, on this innovative space, that Australia's actually captured. What do you think, Gerhard? Did we handle it fairly well over here?
Well, if you look at our numbers, if you look at the incentives government gave to help people, I think people feel safer, and with the incentives, you know, they just take a bit of the pressure off.
Yeah, absolutely. Here she is, Coleen Yates, giving her perspective between Australia and the USA on how we've handled the COVID-19 virus crisis. Well, here we are. We're back with Coleen Yates from Regional Development Australia.
Hello,
Perth.
everyone.
You survived your American trip. You had some fantastic discussions over there. But we talked last time. We were talking a little bit off air, and it was really interesting your perspectives of how Australia's gone. I know there's always going to be critics everywhere, but you also experienced the American perspective as well, because that's a huge economy over there and a huge population, and just how you think we've gone compared to them and vice versa, and your thoughts around it. I thought it might just be interesting to give some perspective to it.
Yeah, the global response to the pandemic and COVID-19 has been interesting. I think it's been varied. Everybody's taken a different choice. You had India going straight into lockdown, China doing lockdown as well. And while I was traveling in the U.S., right in the middle of the pandemic really taking off, it was really interesting, to see on ground how the U.S. was handling their approach. And then I flew back to Australia, and as I've said, had to sign paperwork. And I actually had the police call me while I was in self-isolation to make sure I was self-isolating. But I really think that Australia's done well, and I think it's mainly because there's definitely an alignment between the federal and state approach. There's a good dialogue going on. There's commonalities, and despite the politics of situations, they're following a regime, and I think we've done extremely well here in Western Australia with the Premier, with the state, and the approach that he's taken in terms of trying to keep the community safe. And what's interesting is that there's really a sense of, we're trying to do something in the best interest of everyone, and that having that alignment, whereas in the U.S. it's a little bit different.
I must admit, my perspective, and I guess there's always going to be critics on either side of the fence, but I think what I've seen is Australian politics is able to put their politics to one side. The Labor's working with the Liberals and vice versa. And there seems to be this cooperation, this understanding, giving some balance. And they've just gone, we're not interested in political differences right now. We're just interested in doing the best that we can with the knowledge that we've got, because obviously the knowledge changes every day. And I must admit, I've been very impressed in how WA has actually gone about that. I think us and probably the Northern Territory, have had some outstanding results with some great strategies that they've attempted to do without impacting people too much.
Yeah, it's been fantastic, and I think it's demonstrated by the numbers. We were up there in double digits, for a while in terms of new cases, and measures were put into place. And as those measures were put into place, and everybody within the population actually doing their job, we saw those numbers go down, and we've had quite a bit of time now. I think just over a week or around a week where we've had days where we've had 0 new cases. And in Western Australia, amazingly, I think something like 37% of our cases actually came from the cruise ships. You know, so getting the cruise ships out, you know, as quickly as possible obviously did well. And yes, I think, you know, that alignment, you know, setting politics aside and really looking out, you know, in the best interest of everyone in Australia has been a really strong point with dealing with this pandemic. When I was in the U.S. And in New Orleans, the city of New Orleans actually went into lockdown, but the state hadn't quite had a position. And then, you know, what we're seeing, you know, the mayhem that seems to be happening at the federal level, you know, with different opinions and all kinds of stuff. So I think where we've been aligned between the state and federal government and very little involvement of the local government, in the U.S. there's been discontent between what the local governments are doing, what the state governments are doing, what the federal governments, and I think, you know, the outcome of that is what's happened in New York. You know, you had a New York just not doing anything there for a while. The state wasn't doing anything, and there was no impetus from the federal government to actually, you know, step in and do something. And so, yeah, it just ended up being, you know, high numbers of cases in New York. So I think Australia should be really proud of itself in terms of how it's handled this, because when you don't have that alignment between the 3 tiers of government, especially the state and federal government, you end up with the chaos that they've been faced with over there.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I think is, and what did impress me, and again, you get critics both sides, but I think you can't go far past praising them. The benefits and the packages, the support packages the federal government brought out, and the states have obviously done ones as well, but mainly the federal. But how fast they got this, I mean, considering the number of people, whether you think it's too much, too little, wrong people got it, that's regards, they really got in front of it really quick. I was quite impressed.
Yeah, and what's been amazing with the RDA network is that we've had availability to the Assistant Minister for Regional Development, Nola Marino, and so there's days where she sets aside time, and RDAs across Australia, being 52 of them, have direct contact with what's happening on ground. So she gets briefed. There's like 2 or 3 briefings a week that you can sign into and update the minister on what's happening in your region. And what's been really fantastic is that's created these regional information bulletins that have gone directly into National Cabinet and have informed how well those stimulus packages have been working, what the issues are, you know, where there's other things that are happening. And so, and National Cabinet has actually responded quite quickly to where there might need to be some adjustment. So, yeah, we've as an RDA, we've actually been involved in this process of informing of what's happening in our regions, and the government has been responding quite quickly.
For that, actually, I'd like to refer to what Winston Churchill said, that pessimistic people, they look at the problem at any opportunity, and the optimistic people look at the opportunity at any problem. So I'll look at the problem and say that, what can I do to solve this problem for others? And this is what I've been doing for the last few weeks, helping people, being their voice, even though it's not my job to interpret what the government is saying, what does that incentive means to them. It's just being there, helping them, telling them, don't go line up in Centrelink in a queue, and yes, we are here to help you, and we can translate it for you, what's going on. I think that is something that we are good at it, or can help people.
So new opportunities, new customers, new ways, pivoting your business and all that sort of stuff. Networking, I love to network, I love to talk to people, I get all my energy from other people, so I'm out networking all the time, looking for the opportunity to help people and doing stuff for people at no cost to them.
I've got a very lateral thinking mind, so they come to me reasonably often, and I think you just got to turn over the rock and have a look underneath it. We all get sort of tunnel vision in our businesses and day to day what we do, and don't look laterally. I think it's critical, and to look outside of your own sandbox too, to look interstate, international, at trends happening in your industry.
Well, that was great hearing from Coleen, and I actually agree with it. I guess there's always positive and negatives to how people deal with the situation, Gerhard, but in all, I think we'd have to be giving ourselves a few pluses and a few credits here that I think the Australian governments, both state and federal, as she said, they've worked together here. And I think that was a really important point. When it comes to innovation, I think there's things to be learned. She talked about, state, this is what happens when you go live, isn't it? But she talked about how state and the federal have worked together despite being on opposite political parties in certain cases. And I think there's an incentive there or clues to success there that in a company, it's getting different departments to work together and putting aside their differences because, maybe, production's just concentrating on how fast do I get at the door, sales are just how fast do I get the sales in. But I think there's some lessons there on helping your teams work together.
You will never have everybody on the same page because we've got different personalities, we've got different backgrounds, we come from different countries. We are so multicultural these days in businesses. And that's why it's, I think, important when you start innovating is that people know why their business are there and what is the end result.
Yeah. And it's interesting you use the term same page because we use that all the time when we're working with businesses. Even though they're different departments, we will do what we call a same page session. And it's normally half a day to a day depending on the size of the business. But what we do is we go get this department and let's see what page they're on. And then let's get this department and see what page you're on. And then see where the commonalities are and where the overlaps are. And then what we do is we end up with a third same page, like, we're all working. This is where we can actually mesh together better and more cohesively. And that does drive the innovation, doesn't it?
The thing is, if everybody's on the same page, we work into one direction. If people have different ideas or even different concepts of certain terminology, you will not get to where you want to be. So being on the same page is so important.
Yeah, so when you're innovating, it is really, this is all about creating that environment for innovation, and definitely an environment is to get everyone on the same page. They're on different pages in their own departments, but let's again working towards that same page here. It's really interesting, caught up with Peter Mclellan from Homebase. He's doing things slightly differently out there in his business, Gerhard, and he talks about how he's had to change his business models, and he's had to innovate, Gerhard.
It is, for me, different people have different ideas of innovation. But for you if you're not a person that say, I don't know how to innovate, then it's important to educate yourself and listen to different people and different opinions. It's no use listening to only people that's got the same opinion than you. It will not stretch your imagination. Get people that think differently, and I think Peter's is maybe one of those.
Terrific. Let's listen to Peter Mclellan from Homebase for Business. Peter, Mr. Innovator, you've been called. you've been in business for so long, yeah, and things have come. You've always managed to morph out, yeah, and morph through. And here you are again. This is a brand new style of office business. I mean, I haven't seen a model like this, and I'm wondering where that innovation flair comes from and how do you keep it going?
God, that's a good question. I think it comes from necessity, basically. They say necessity is a great inventor or something. Yeah. Yeah, it really, it's really, if you want to continue, if you have a plan, like I do, like I say, I have 5-year plans, If you have a 5-year plan, 6 months is not a big interruption. So if you're 2 years into a plan, you've done all the groundwork and prepared everything, and then you have a hiccup like this, which is probably a 6-month hiccup.
Yeah.
there's still 2.5 years of the plan on the other side of that, you know. So, you know,
it's a great attitude.
So there's plenty of time to still, you know, get to where we want to go. And if it was a good plan, which it was, I'm sure of that, you know, then it's not going to be overturned by, you know, short-term changes. Yeah.
So when you made Home Base, which is Home Base for Business, everyone can go Business Base, Home Base for Business. How did you create that? Is this just experience? Did you look at what other industries were doing and said, you know what, we could actually bring that into our industry? Where did you get this innovation?
Okay, it actually came from someone else. The actual, the name and so on. Person who was an external consultant, because you know, we've always been different anyway. So we've always had 4 or 5 major product areas. Run 4 or 5 businesses from one central location, and had competitors in different areas, you know. So we've been, you know, we're not a specialist. We're a specialist for business supplies of all kinds, but we're not specialists in each of those areas, you know. But we do have the knowledge and the, you know, the products and the pricing, you know.
It's like you flip niching on his head.
Yeah, that's it. So had an external consultant come in to give us a bit of advice and so on, and he came up with the idea of, you know, Home Base for Business, because he could see, coming in from the outside, something that we couldn't see. That is that, you know, that's the perfect description for us. That's who we are. We're Home Base for Business. So Home Base being, you know, the experts for everything for the person wanting to build a home, you know, look at, you know, kitchen products, see displays, you know, meet suppliers, you know, come into contact with suppliers and so on, make determinations about what products they're going to put into the home. And we do the same thing for business people, you know, so if they want business machines, office furniture, shelving, racking, shop fittings, you know, so we do the same thing. So that's who we are. We actually are Home Base for Business. Business base, Home Base for Business.
Yeah,
made a lot of sense, so we ran with it.
And that's one thing I want to ask you there. Because lots of people will get an external consultant, they'll give them some strategies and do nothing. You take an external consultant, hear the idea, decide this is good, and actually do something. What do you think it takes to take it from just an idea to actually implementation, which is the key anyway?
Yeah.
What gives you that confidence to do that part?
Yeah. When I say external consultant, we actually employed him internally on a full-time basis, but only for a contractual period, you know. And he was a very experienced executive, business executive. So he brought, you know, that new idea to us. That was the key thing that actually we got from that relationship.
Yeah.
Well, it was just so obvious that it was right, you know. It hit the nail on the head, you know, and we just ran with it immediately, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's now been 2 years. Yeah.
Do you think that comes from a personal confidence you have in yourself? You know when something's right, and then. But do you think doubt stops people? They know something's right, but they have doubt. How do you get past the doubt to have the confidence to do this?
Yeah. I'll just step back a little bit, because Mclellan's had been a known name for a long time in Perth and Western Australia, in the kind of products that I'm talking about. People knew what we did and who we were and so on. So in WA, but what we were looking for was a national expansion at that point. And the Home Base for Business was the perfect, you know, if you think about it, it's a single large display area in each capital city, which is what we want as well, you know, together with, we combine that with online presence, online sales. So in WA, we keep the Mclellan name, so it's Mclellan's Business Base, or Business Base WA, and we're blending the two and slowly moving WA towards Business Base, which makes it then, when we expand nationally, we'll come back to WA, and WA will become part of the national chain, you know. So the confidence came from, you know, still having the plan, wanting to expand, and knowing that Mclellan's is a brand name in WA but not nationally, and thinking, oh, well, how will we rebrand this so people understand what it is before we even get there, right? So we're thinking that people in Sydney know what Home Base is. You know, a lot of people know what Home Base is, have been there, you know, shopped there when they're building their home or doing renovations. So, you know, calling ourselves Business Base, Home Base for Business, should really explain who we are before we even arrive. So all of our marketing nationally and our websites and so on are based around business base, home base for business. In WA, we're Mclellan's business base still, just to keep the old, the recognition there.
That's pretty strategic. You've looked at language people are used to hearing and associating with, and blended that to go, hey, you get what it is.
Yeah.
This is the business model now. So you've used those languages they're already used to hearing.
Yeah. So hopefully, and I do find that a lot of people do understand, the home-based concept. It's an easy step from home-based to business-based. Oh, they're they're supplying business. Same as home-based supplies for the home market, they supply for the business market. So
I suppose I've got two questions. What's your take on getting outside consultants primarily in, and if someone's looking for expansion, what would your 2 bits of advice around those 2 pieces of questions?
Okay. We do like to do everything internally as much as possible.
Yeah.
So, for example, IT, so we employ a full-time internal IT person. It's difficult because you have to get a person who has the wide range of experience and knowledge, is prepared to work in a small organisation. So it's a kind of a tricky thing to get the right person.
Yeah.
But if you get the right person, then you've got 100% access, so you're not booking something and waiting for it to happen. We book it and it happens to our schedule and our time frame. So we're really very strong when it comes to online presence, online marketing, changes, pricing, images and so on. We can just change things overnight, So that's why we prefer to have internal people as much as possible. Even our accounting and bookkeeping and so on, for the same reasons. Now, I think we've got to be honest, we don't use a lot of external consultants. We try to do everything internally if possible and have the right people in place to do that. I can see reasons for using external people. You do have access sometimes to a wider bank of current knowledge because they're in the industry and they're working in different areas and come across the new things, the more up-to-date ideas, more regular.
But your take would be, if you're big enough to have them internal, that's a more preferable way.
Yeah.
And if you're a little bit smaller and can't afford to have them, then maybe that's when you might use an external.
Yeah, I'd say that when you're in the business they say is it's best to be either very small or very big, and in between is no man's land, right? So you might say we're in some respects in no man's land because if we wanted to be, we could be just WA based and quite a small business, but we have always have ambitions to grow. It's a natural thing in our society to want growth, but to want sensible growth. I don't want to take on debt to do that, so we'll do it without debt. The way we're doing it, we will do it without debt. So we're in a position where we're employing those people that will help us to expand, but we're not there yet. So it can be an expensive thing, right? So you've got to watch your costs there.
Yeah.
But I'd say we're balancing out. We're spending more than we would if we were a small business to get to a much bigger size.
One thing I pick up from you there is really interesting. It's not so much about I need more money. You went no. You came up with a better strategy.
Yeah, it's difficult to explain what our strategy is at the moment. But we've got a West Australian business. And we've got a national business. The national business at the moment sits on the West Australian business. It's the headquarters, you might say, is sitting there ready to service all of the branches nationally. So we've got a higher expense than we would usually have within that part of the business. Our West Australian business is tremendously profitable, as will each of the other ones be, modelled on the West Australian profitability, But at the moment we're having to carry a head office in order to expand with that already in place, So it's as I said, it's we're in no man's land currently, but but we're managing that. So So we're reducing our profits in order to, temporarily, in order to expand. Yeah.
Wow, absolutely fantastic advice. And probably people, that's where they get a little bit nervous because the profits are going to decrease. But you just said if you're looking for the bigger picture and get out of no man's land, there's some of the things you've just got to do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I see us in about 3 years' time, we'll have a product selection centre in every capital city. We'll be very strong online. We'll have partners in each state, and our head office will be supported by 6 state centres rather than one as it is at the moment.
Well, there we go, Peter. That was great catching up with him and seeing how he's innovated in his business, Gerhard. I noticed what he did when he was looking for innovation. He was actually looking for where his customers were going. He made a couple of comments that, if he wanted to be online in a different state, he also wanted a physical presence there, even if it's just one store. But is that where you find a lot of the innovation is constantly looking at where the customer demand is coming from, Gerhard, and then seeing if you've got the distinctive capabilities to meet that demand?
It is so important. The business is not about you as the business owner. It is all about your customer and what they want. And we always say the bigger the pain is of your customer, and you can solve that pain and take that pain away, the better your business will do. So it's important for you, if you want to innovate your business, is to go and look where is the pain for your client.
And what I do and what we do when we go into companies is we do what we call a resource check. So we see what physical resources, they're the obvious things, the computers, the machinery, whatever it is, the offices, the boardrooms, whatever it is, you've got the physical resources. But then the other resources is your actual personal skill resources and having a look at that. And then when you've got those 2 resources there, you can then look at your customer demands, as Gerhard, as you were just saying then, and we put them in the middle, and then we see where the matches are. Can we make? And what happens by using that system is you identify gaps, and it is in those gaps where the opportunity lies. And that's where, outside consultancy companies come in, they go, here are your gaps. And then at the bottom of this little chart, we go, these are the gaps we need to fill. This is how we're going to fill them. That is a strategic action plan that keeps you relevant in the marketplace and gives you that distinctive set of capabilities, Gerhard, to meet these new and changing demands for customers.
Well, important you said there, you need to be relevant. And a lot of companies, because they don't innovate, they fall behind and not being relevant anymore.
Yeah. Well, we caught up with someone from the mentoring group, Alex from the mentoring group. Now, this was filmed before social distancing, so please don't tell us off. She came in, she did a bunch of filming. We just let the camera roll. And she actually talks about this, and she talks about driving the change. And I think this is important, isn't it, Gerhard? You, as the business owner, have to be responsible for driving this change if you want change to occur.
You are the end. The responsibility stops with you, but you are the person that needs to see that things happen.
Here she is, Alex from the mentoring group, driving change.
So the risk management and all that stuff, people actually stopping the business instead of implementing some different, procedures, and sometimes things that we are like, oh my God, that's embarrassing, I'm not going to do it, like for face mask. Rather have face mask, but don't close your business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's funny how people react, and it's like, no.
I know, people are funny. Hi, and welcome. We've got the cameras rolling. We're in the studio. We're actually talking, because one of the messages that came back was called driving change, which you quite often hear Alex talking about. And we're just talking about that where we just says, and you probably caught a bit of it before the camera switched into us. But driving change, that's an interesting terminology used there. What is your opinion and your take on implementing change within companies?
I think it's very important to don't overreact or panic when any change is happening, or disaster, or like now we have issues everywhere all around the world, and people are very quickly stepping back a little bit, and it's like, okay, I can't do it, I need to close, it's a very, very big reaction on things that don't need to be happening. And I know it's very sad. I know that people should just really think what is their, I would say, act under the pressure. And at that time, I'm always saying, like, just calm down, just sit down and really think about pros and cons. Just really think what you can do better, how you can be different, how you can actually thrive in the change, what you can do that actually your business is not going to stop, and how you can put away the most energy and actually great results.
It's interesting because you talk change, and a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like change." I said, "Well, that's not true. You change your clothes, you change the food you eat, you change where you go on holidays. You love change. You just don't like the change you have no control over." That's what you call problems.
Exactly.
Change. Everyone loves change. But how do you, as a team builder in organisations, whether they're small or large, get people active in, even a sole trader who's resistant to change? How do you get them engaged so they want to take part in change? And that phrase always uses that driving it.
You probably, the best thing is to put it into small steps,
Right.
because change is always bringing something positive and new. I'm always saying it's always exciting, because any change will bring always the better. And even doesn't look like that probably right now, but it will. And people, I think the major thing is to put it into small steps. That means, you don't need to save all the world, but you need to save one person or one animal. I'm always saying, just really think about that in your organization. That means we always try to check what is changing, what is really changing, and what needs to be implemented. And when you sit down with people, you say, look, it's not horrible. It's really actually easy. And you try to put it into small steps, like, look, just do this, send email to people, tell them this, and just really small things. And you see when you talk to people or team and implement changes slowly but very clearly, the people react as well that way, and they don't panic. They're actually supporting you.
Wow, that was a great session with Alex about driving change, and you have to be the person that drives that change. Our next guest coming up, Gerhard, is one of our favourites. It is Coleen and his messages about Facebook, and this time he's talking about interacting with groups or group interaction on Facebook and how you do it and the importance of it. And it struck me, you said before the break about the innovation, about listening to other people, and these groups, Gerhard, give you this opportunity.
Well, the groups, if you want to innovate, you have to do it to Facebook, because they change their algorithms so often. And we've seen it as well. And the groups is such a great way in getting your message out there.
And it allows you to talk to other people and see their thinking, doesn't it? And see where the trends are going in customer demands and customer wants and desires, Gerhard. I think it's a great opportunity within these groups.
What we see with some of the groups is you have to apply and say why you want to join them. And some of the groups we thought, well, they're not actually for us, and they actually accepted us because they also see there's something different that we can bring to the group.
Absolutely. Here he is, Coleen James, and Facebook's and how to use group interactions for your benefit. Well, we're back with Coleen. Mr. Facebook, you get called in Perth here. Last time we had you in, Coleen, you talked about groups, and you left us with the key message that if you've got a business and a business page, you must have a group under that business page.
Correct. And it's really, really simple. When we're talking about groups and group interactions, if you have a page in your personal profile, people can't really interact on your page or your personal profile. But in a group they can, which means that you can create a lot of conversation in that group and get people to interact with you so that you can have a running commentary about your business, about current affairs, about community things that are going on, and that gets more people following that group, which then gives you more people who are going to interact with your business.
A few of the groups that I've joined, and they seem like they've got some pretty strict rules, some that I disagree with because it stops me doing stuff, and some I go, okay, I get that. How do you decide the rules for a group? Do you have any advice on this?
Be strict. Make sure your group, the group that you run, is controlled by you, so that you control what goes on your group. And it's simple. If you don't want people to be promoting certain businesses on that group, then say so in the rules. If you don't want people to be promoting belly button flat, whatever, or anything like that, then say in the rules you say none of this. You can do this, but you can't do that. Be strict and stick to it so that your business page, your business group sticks on and sticks with the ethos of your business.
Now, there's a couple of groups that I'm in, and I do postings, obviously for the TV show, but I've got to wait for the group's administrator to approve it.
Yep.
Is that something you recommend? Make sure you're approving each post?
Yes, you approve the post. If you've got 3 or 4 people in your business, make them administrators or monitors of the group, so that you can control what goes on that group. Otherwise, you're going to have situations where you're going to have, you can make $1 million overnight being advertised on your group and you don't want it, then you have to go back and delete it. Also get people to report problems that are occurring in the group to you, not to Facebook, because then you can control what's going on, which allows you to monitor and control without disadvantaging people who are posting to the group and have just made a mistake.
You said something interesting there. How do you get people to report the problem to you, not to Facebook?
You just put it in your rules.
Right,
You just
okay.
ask them, please report this to admin. And when people can do that, if it's a controlled group, when you go to report something, it'll actually say to you, report to admin and not report to Facebook. When we report stuff to Facebook, you're reporting it to an algorithm.
Yes.
And Facebook act on everything in an algorithm. I mean, if you had a business that had 2.6 billion users, you would use an algorithm to do all this stuff too. Otherwise, you'd have to employ about 2.6 billion people to see all the complaints and the things that are coming in. So if you have them report it to you, then you can make a judgment on that post using your ethos and the ethos of your business and the rules that you've put in place on your Facebook group to allow you to monitor that and control what's going on.
Comment. I'm conscious of your time, but as we leave this and someone is going to set up a group under their business page today, what's 1 or 2 pieces of advice you'd say, do this so you get it right from the start?
Just think about it. Look at what other people have done. Don't reinvent the wheel. Go and have a look at a group that you sort of go, well, this is something I post in. It seems to work very well. There's nothing wrong with ringing someone up and saying, hey, can you give me a little bit of a pointer on how you did this? You can ring me. I'll certainly give you a pointer on how to do it. It's not hard. You just press the create button, create group, and away you go.
And I suppose at the end of the day, if someone said, Coleen, is it worth the effort? What will it give me?
It gives you more people to follow your business and your business page. And at the end of the day, that means you're going to have more people seeing your product and give them an opportunity to be buying from you instead of your competitor.
Wow, what a show, Gerhard. All about innovation this week from different perspectives, but all driving that change, as Alex would put it, but all about innovating and creating the environment for that innovation to happen, Gerhard.
Again, not everybody is creative, but I think all of us can be innovative.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a lot of people say, with us, how do we go in? I keep trying to glance to my right. I'm so used to you being on my right, Gerhard. I look and there's a wall. Nobody's there. So thank you for the messages coming in, Rochelle and James and Stephen. Thank you for that, for saying you keep glancing over. There's nobody there. But when we talk about the innovations, now, one thing, it's what separates the small and medium enterprises that are booming at this time and growing at this time and still succeeding to the ones that are struggling. And we can tell you it is advisory boards. Now, some people think you've got to spend a fortune on these things, but you can actually do it for no or very little money, Gerhard. This is what's giving these companies, small and medium enterprises, they're not full board of directors that you have to pay, 50, 60 grand a year for. These are advisory boards, but they do give you the edge and get you going?
Well, the one question we had is if I don't have enough staff, how will I set up this board? And we actually did a whole session on this, is that we can actually get people from outside to help you sitting on your board and bringing expertise from the outside into your business.
Yeah. So what advisory boards really do is they are your team. They're the team that have a vested interest and a personal desire to see you grow. And people say, well, why would they do that? Because if they're seeing you grow and they're testing out their ideas and they're helping you, guess what? When you help somebody else, you actually help yourself. And smart business owners know this. So they're very happy to get onto boards and discuss it with people. And look, if you know nothing about boards, you can jump onto Worthington and Stoop. There's an advisory board page on there, and there's an advisory board mentoring group where we actually help people through. We always say give us a call first, obviously. Drop us an email at info@worthingtonstoop.com. We'll put that link underneath. And we have a 90-day fast track program for this as well. But just on yourself, have a look at what content's on our page, and then have a look around you at the 3 or 4 people you go, you know what, if we got together every couple of months, not every month, you'll just end up with a job list, but every couple of months and focused on my business as a group, and I steer it as a chairman, they call you the chairman, you're steering it, the results are remarkable. I would just say be prepared to sit on somebody else's board and return the favour, Gerhard.
Exactly, and like you said, it is not going to cost a lot of money. There's a lot of, I know, accountants that would like to sit on boards because they get the experience as well. And one of the things that we said as well before is that if you get an accountant maybe from the outside, they see something in your business that your current accountant might not have seen.
Absolutely, absolutely. So all this creating environments that we've talked about for innovation that will get you through the next level and really get your business growing, but future-proof your business as well, Gerhard, against, you know, we're going to have another pandemic. We just know it. Anyone that says, oh, I don't think so, well, I'm sure you're watching going, no, I think there will be. Get yourself set up advisor. If you need some help on this, look, please feel free, drop us a line and put the email underneath, info@worthingtonstoop.com. We'll have a chat to you one-on-one, give you some pointers on that, not a problem. But it is all about creating the environment to foster innovation, because you cannot force innovation. I think it's been a great show. Thank you for all the messages coming through. Look, keep them coming. Send us the emails. We love answering them. And we absolutely love the question of the week. And we just slipped it in there. Some people say, oh, you didn't introduce it. But we just slipped that question of the week in there, didn't we, Gerhard, this week? Just do something different.
Well, the question we asked him is how do you look for new opportunities in your business?
Yeah, so some people go, what happened there? Well, we thought we'd be a bit different and have a bit of a play. And sometimes when it's live, we have to confess it goes a little bit wrong. So thanks for tuning in. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thanks for everyone who flicked through the message saying hi. We do see it on the screen below us there, and we do answer it during the videos that are playing. So thank you very much. So until next week, it is a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.